Hi, I'm Mike, owner of the In-Group in Phoenix, Arizona. We're a brick and mortar retail record store, and today I'm going to do a review of the best sounding copies of Steely Dan's album Asia. I'm going to start out with some of the lesser quality sounding records. There's some wide variance as far as sound quality of this album goes. There's some that are really, really good, and there's some, although this album was extremely well recorded with the best studio musicians in the world, there's some copies of this that don't really show it. First, I'm going to start with, this is an MCA repressing from, I believe, 1980. This can be lumped in with a few other records. This has the category number, the catalog number of AA1006 in the dead wax. And that, with this album, it's very important that you pay attention to the dead wax when you buy it. Don't pay attention to the label. This is the later reissue label, but some of the earlier MCA labels, the yellow labels, use the same metalwork as this. This is a horrible sounding record. You really, really want to avoid this. This is the AA-1006. The AA is MCA's price code. AA stood for like $5.96. Earlier than that, when the records were cheaper, they were AB, and that was like $4.96. But this album went through a price change right after it got introduced. So that's why you're going to see an AB and then the AA. The AA uses a different mastering for sure than the original AB. So anytime you're looking at this album, don't pay attention to the jacket, don't pay attention to the label, don't pay attention to the spine. The only thing that matters is the dead wax on this album. And again, on the US copies, that is. This is the AA-1006. Sounds horrible. Sounds muddy. The drums don't sound like a drum kit. The snare, I mean, everything about this album is really, really awful. So avoid this. Next, I've got some imports. This is a copy from Portugal. Really bad. Sounds pretty awful. Very similar to the AA-1006 of, you know, I don't think anybody out there expects the Portuguese copy to be the best sounding. It's not. This is a modern reissue cut digitally by Back to Black. This is, you know, nothing special. You can get an original for less money than that if you're in the States here. This is avoidable for sure. Not a very good sounding copy. This is, you know, has some price to it because it's a fancy yellow colored wax version from Canada. It sounds horrible. Early colored wax records were typically very noisy. This is no exception. This has a monstrous amount of surface noise on it. Very crappy quality sound, very similar to, again, that AA, MCA, early MCA pressings. This is a German pressing. Not, you know, a lot of times the German pressings are really, really nice. This is not a good sounding record. It's amazing how so many of the pressings out there are so inferior to other copies. And if you have one of those inferior copies, you're really missing the boat on this record. Again, the German, not pleasant. This is a first UK pressing. It shows, you know, has that original MCA logo color pattern. Shows AB in the dead wax, different mastering engineer, different cut. This is the better of the crappier sounding versions, but, you know, I don't think the better of the crappy sounding versions is something you want to strive for. So the UK pressing on this is quite a, you know, avoid that as well. It is not a very good sounding copy, but better than an American AA, better than all the, you know, the German copies, better than the Canadian copies. So, not, if it was the only version I had, I'd be seeking out something else. Not really good. Now, this is a good sounding copy. This is the Mobile Fidelity original master recording. A lot harder to see because the stripe is in black. But this is on the translucent JVC Super Vinyl. So it's a super quiet sounding pressing. You know, white label. But, you know, again, with a lot of these early Mobile Fidelity records, they really tinkered with the top end. It is really, really bright, bleached out sounding. It's a you know, this, if this was the only copy you had, this could be livable, but they're still much better sounding than this original Mobile Fidelity out there. But this is a record too that the original master tape has been lost. So are we going to get something that sounds fantastic in the future as a new pressing? Probably not. But this Mobile Fidelity is not bad, but the sound has just been messed with too much. And I think as opposed to a lot of the 80s albums that Mobile Fidelity, or a lot of the albums Mobile Fidelity redid in the 80s, it's more apparent with this. When you listen to the original for so long, you can really tell that this has been tinkered with quite too much, and it kind of messes up the mix, you know, so not the best sounding copy. Now this is, let's see here. It's another UK pressing. I got a couple of them. Not that good. Oh, never mind. I'm digging from the same, I'm digging from the used pile, or the pile we've gone through. Japanese pressing. This is actually quite close sound-wise to the American copy. Quiet vinyl. This is a pretty solid sounding record overall. You can get away with this. Same thing goes for, you know, the earlier Japanese pressings. Let's see. I think this is the first Japanese pressing, if I'm not mistaken. No, it would have been this one. This had been a second pressing, you know, judging by the amount they cost. But that's just a guess at this point. But they both have a very similar sound. They're all right. But this is really, as far as the pressings go. Now here's another example. This is a US pressing. Now this has the category of AA-1006. Has the label from the first pressing, but this again is why you need to be very, very conscious of the dead wax. You'll find copies with this label in the same jacket. You look in the dead wax and they'll be AA-1006. And they're pretty bad sounding. Again, it uses that same lacquer, same mastering as that MCA budget press. They're horrible. This is actually a transition copy. So when they first came out, they were AB, which was the earlier price code. A couple weeks after the album came out, it switched to AA. But rather than throwing away all the existing metalwork, which would have been a giant waste of money, and recut the album, they just went back and they etched one of the A's off and added a B to it. So, or excuse me, etched one of the B off and then added an A in the beginning, making it AA-1006. So it's the same exact mastering. The sound quality is exactly the same, but the rest of the album, the jacket, the label, everything appears to be that later, crappier sounding pressing. So be conscious of that. A lot of the people out there that are selling this album, they'll charge a big premium for the AB label, AB jacket, but you can get the same exact sound quality with the lacquer, with the crossed out B, and the AA and the dead wax. This is a fantastic sounding copy. You could still regularly get this album for $20 or less. It's amazing how much better the US pressing of this album sounds compared to everything else. That early US AB pressing. It's fantastic. Better than the MoFi, the Japanese pressings, all the other pressings from around the world. This is really, if you have this pressing, you know, and you're not fanatical about this album, you can just stop right here. This is fantastic. An amazing pressing. Now this is the same exact thing. The only difference is this is the true early pressing that has the AB on the spine there, has the AB on the label, has the AB in the dead wax, but it doesn't have the crossed out B, and then they didn't add the A in. Sound quality though, to my ears, is the same on both of these albums. It should be. It's the same exact metalwork. Again, they just went back, rather than chucking all the existing same metalwork that they've been stamping records with, they just went back and tweaked the etching. When they ran out of it, when they ran out of metalwork, because this album was such a huge smash, that's when they would have went back and recut the album. That's when you find the AA-1006 pressings. And that was something they used into the 80s, that original metalwork. Now this is by far and away, I think, the absolute best sounding version of the record, and that is the Cisco reissue that came out, I believe, in 2007. Now at this point, the master tape had been long gone, but this was done from the best possible sources. It was all analog, so maybe made from a safety tape or something of that nature, but this sounds unbelievably good. Better than the original pressing. Everything is so much more defined. You know, the drum sound, every floor tom, snare, everything, you could just so clearly, you know, you can clearly hear it. Nothing is muddled, nothing is mushy, everything is so tight. The sound stage is so much better than, I mean, this really trumps on all the other pressings, even though more than likely, you know, that AB was cut from the master tape, it was fresh, a couple weeks old. This is a better sounding record, and it's just absolutely fantastic. Kevin Gray cut this. Now, here's something you want to be careful of. Don't buy this as a new record. You know, you can go online, and it's not cheap. It's a couple $100+, but this is something you do not want to buy as a new record, and the reason being is this crappy white sleeve. There's some glue that holds this sleeve together, here and here, and depending on how it's stored, when that glue has been sitting, and I don't know if it's heat, dry, whatever the climate might be, it actually burns onto the record. It seeps through the paper and it burns onto the record. I don't know if you can tell, but you can actually see where the glue is. There's a line there, and there was a line there, and there's a line there. And of course, the top of the jacket where there was no glue, there's no line. Flip over the record, exact same thing. It's a burn, it's like a haze. There, there, and there. This is a record that I bought new, but I had bought it new 5-6 years after it had came out. I didn't get this originally when it came out. So you might get lucky, you might buy a brand new copy, and it might not have that. You might end up buying a new copy, spend a big premium on it, and get hosed. And end up with something that, and it creates like a whoosh. Now, it's not too bad on that copy, but there's a few in the real quiet parts, there's a few times where you can actually hear the whoosh when the record is spinning and it goes past that damaged part, it creates a whoosh. Now, once the record gets going, you don't hear that. But, you know, this came with a nice gatefold. They were all numbered. This is 8276. But, of course, I couldn't live with a copy of that whoosh, so I went and bought another one. Now this, I was smart. I bought a used copy that was in mint shape. The guy had gone, when he bought it, replaced it with a Mobile Fidelity rice paper type sleeve. Has no problem, sounds great. So if you're gonna buy this record, buy a used copy. You know, it's not that old, it's an audiophile record. The people that were buying records in 2007 typically took really good care of them, played it on high-end equipment. So you can go out and you can buy this record used, pay less money, not have to worry about having possible burns on your record due to the inner sleeve that they used at the time. But again, this is the copy to own. It's just the overall presentation, the sound stage on this record is just so much better. Really, really quiet vinyl as well. It is all analog and you can hear it, unlike, you know, the Back in Black, which is digitally sourced. You can really hear the difference in that. But this is the one to own. This is the Cisco reissue. And I mean, the prices on these are expensive, and they didn't make a few of these. I've seen copies maybe into the 10,000 range. So they made a lot of these, and for the price to be the price it is, a couple $100+, a lot of people know that this is the one to own. This is the, you know, the word is out there on this album. Get the Cisco version of it. All right, so kind of the rundown. Cisco being the best, buy a used copy. The American copy, the second best. The AB, in the dead wax. Don't pay attention to nothing else. That's the second best sounding copy, and really, really good. Again, you can totally be okay with this record. Never need to upgrade it, grade it. It's a fantastic sounding record. The rest, who cares? Why would you bother? You can get that for 20 bucks. Most of those albums there cost more than that. There's no reason, short of the, you know, the reissue MCA budget copy, you know, almost every one of these albums I showed you costs more money. The imports, the Japanese pressings, the Mobile Fidelity pressings, those are your choices. Buy the Cisco or buy an AB early US first pressing. All right, guys, don't forget to subscribe to my videos. You could check us out online at www.theingroove.com. Leave suggestions if there's other records you'd like us to cover. Leave them in the box. I'm going to crank out a few extra records this week because, you know, the store is shut down because of the coronavirus outbreak in 2020. But don't forget to subscribe. Until next time.